Meeting of the Mobile City Planning Commission, I would like to take a moment to review our general operating procedures. Our meeting is divided into two sessions, public hearing and the deliberation sessions. In the public hearing session, an application or group application on the agenda is called. The applicant makes his or her presentation. Commission members ask questions, if any, and members of the public make their comments. Only 4 people may speak for an agenda item and 4 against. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes, subject to questions by the commission. After 4 minutes, that speaker will hear a loud beep, indicate 1 minute left to speak, and at that point, we ask that you summarize your comments. After all opposition speakers have finished, the applicant will be given time to respond. If you do intend to speak, please come to the podium at the bottom of the stairs, speak into the microphone, and give your name and address for our minutes. Please direct all comments to the commission only and not to the applicant or the audience, and please remember to speak directly into the microphone. On routine applications, the applicant may simply raise his or her hand if there are no objections to the staff recommendations. I will then announce that the applicant is in full agreement with those recommendations. If there are any questions, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. After hearing all the applications, we then go into the deliberation session where we discuss each application with input from the staff as necessary, but with no input from the audience. Commissioners then vote on each application, and the results of that voting can be learned from the planning department. If some issues arise in the deliberation session that were not addressed in the public hearing, we have the discretion to allow additional comments pertaining to those issues and resolve them, or call the application to be held over for discussion at a future meeting. Occasionally, 1 or more commission members may recuse themselves from discussing and voting on a given application. A recusal does not necessarily mean the member is directly involved with the applicant or the application, but depending upon the circumstances, ethical rules may require a recusal when there's only the slightest appearance of a conflict of interest. If a regular member recuses, a supernumerary will vote in their stead. The Planning Commission makes final decisions subject to appeal on subdivisions, planning approvals, and planned unit developments, or PUDs, and it is noted that the Planning Commission only makes recommendations on the zoning applications, with the City Council making the final decisions. At this time, please turn off your cell phones or turn them to silent. Commissioners and staff, please remember to turn on your microphones when speaking. I'll call the roll. Myself, Jay Stubbs, present. Mr. Alan Cameron. Ms. Jennifer Denson. Mr. Carlos Gant. Here. Ms. Shirley Sessions. Here. Mr. Taylor Atchison. Here. Mr. Matt Anderson. Mr. Nick Amberger. Mr. Scott Jones. Ms. Susan Carley. Mr. Kirk Matei. We have a quorum, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for January 5th.
So moved.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We'll move on to new subdivision application, agenda item number 1. Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 1, 1057 Tennessee Street, Order of Polka Dots subdivision. It's been recommended for approval with 10 listed conditions. Is the applicant present? Are you in agreement with the 10 listed conditions? Is there anyone else here to speak for this agenda item? Anyone here to speak against this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 2, 3603 Kent Road, Pinewood River subdivision. Staff has recommended application be denied for 3 reasons. Is the applicant present?
Brett Orrell with Poly Surveying. What you have before you here is a property in the, I call it the greater DIP area. Pretty large lots in this area. You know, we have a 100 by 300 foot lot. And we took a look at this. The owner has purchased this, has got a permit to demo, has taken down an existing home with the plan and intent to build 2 single-family residential homes on those lots there. We understand it doesn't meet the current regulation. However, what is being proposed, excuse me, for the future regulation, it would easily meet even the depth ratio as well. So typically, when we've gone down and asked for that, we've asked for waiver of both the width, the lot width, and that length to width ratio, and that's really what I asked for in the letter that I submitted. Feel that in order for this area to be revitalized and new housing to happen, it needs to happen now. And so I know that's why we're putting out new regulations and ask that y'all consider, taking this on and allowing us to move forward with this resub. There hasn't been any opposition from any neighbors, hasn't been any correspondence with staff. I checked with them. So we ask that you consider this application as is and approve it today. And I'll field any questions you may have.
Thank you, Brett. Question for staff. Is the reason for denial primarily 1 and 2? Just the standards that are...
Well, no, it's really 1, 2, and 3. First of all, standard lot widths are 60 feet. It does exceed the width to depth ratio in that the lots are 3.5 times deeper than the width. And if you look on the street, this is the standard lot configuration in the street. Now, quite honestly, the staff did not evaluate this application under any proposed regulations. So, quite frankly, I can't sit here and tell you, yes, it would, or no, it would not comply. However, the commission has some options here. You could deny it. You could waive the existing regulations and approve it. Or you could consider holding it over until the first meeting in March when we should have new regulations. But I will caution both the commission and the applicant in suggesting that holdover. I'm not saying it does comply, but I'm saying we can look and see.
So how badly does it violate the width to depth ratio right now? I mean, they look pretty skinny on there, but I mean they're also relatively large lots. You can answer that during the discussion portion. I don't need an answer right now. I'm just curious.
And just to follow on to that is, what's it going to look like with the proposed new regulations?
Well, a couple of things. Marie saved me from mathematical doom. They're 125 feet too deep. The other thing is, basically, no one can say it would happen, but if you do it here, you're looking at doing it on the rest of the street.
Is there not another option where we could hold over for one meeting in time for the staff to review the new standards that are being proposed to see if it does meet those, as Mr. Worrell is saying? I mean, if it does, I would be inclined to vote for the subdivision and waive the rights, but it's hard. Staff saying y'all haven't evaluated it against the new standards.
Well, here's the reason I'm a little antsy on that is you can only approve based on the regulations in force at the time of your vote. The public hearing on the new standards is at the next meeting. I don't know if the commission's going to be voting at that meeting or just taking input, but we can by all means give the commission we've analyzed it based on what's proposed. Here's where it complies. Here's where it doesn't. But since the current regulations will still be in effect on January 19th, you're still going to be waiving these requirements.
Mr. Worrell, it sounds like you researched the regulations we're looking to, change subdivision regulations to. Can you tell us what those new regulations say?
Yeah, I mean, based on its opinion, right? I mean, I think the urban setting, I would consider this urban setting, was 50-foot wide lots. Now, I did run the math wrong, so I apologize. The length of width based on the 3.5, I believe, sticks. So that would still have to be waived under current configuration. However, what I'd like to point out to you is this was developed, 50, 60, 70 years ago. Sewer lots nowadays, you're typically looking at a 60 by 120. This is 100 by 300. You just don't see this traditionally developed now. We did look at a flag option. I felt like it wasn't really appropriate based on what is in the surrounding area, but new housing is. New house, you can see there's vacant properties. Look at all the vacant, just on this one page. You've got wetland issues in this region, right? There's not a lot of things. You've got to overcome quite a bit of challenge. You've got flood zones to overcome. It's not an easy area to revitalize. So the only way I see to do that is having people coming in and investing into older homes, tearing them down, building new housing, which is what the administration wants and what I think, frankly, Mobile needs.
Thank you.
Any further questions from commissioners?
I've got one. Looking at the aerial photo of it, it looks like the existing structure is kind of turned on a bit of an angle. I know you just got a schematic going right down the center of it, but you end up with appropriate setbacks.
That has been demoed. There's been a demolition permit pulled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if the applicant may want to speak. That's okay.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon. What I'd like to,
Name and address for the record, sir. Your name and address.
my name is Ellis Harper. I live on 1312 Dunaway Drive in the DIP area.
All right, go right ahead.
One of the rhyme or reasoning behind the two lots was, if you look at the other picture that you had, there was two structures there. If you look at the tax records, as I pulled from I had the Alabama Power. There was two water meters there. There was that property in the back, so we was just trying to bring it up to par with what was already there and just make it look better. I just wanted to point that out. As far as the way that it was taxed, when I went to get the permit to tear the structure down, they asked me which one. And I just wanted to point out that, and that was the rhyme or reasoning behind just putting back what was there, but obviously bringing it up to what would be the new standard.
All right, thank you, Mr. Harper. Any questions from commissioners of the applicant? Is there anyone else here to speak for this agenda item? Is anyone here to speak against this agenda item? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to group applications. Agenda item number 3, 1459 Montelamar Court, Harder subdivision. We have a subdivision application as well as a rezone. The subdivision application is recommended for tentative approval with 8 listed conditions. The rezone has been recommended for approval with reasoning and 2 listed conditions. Is the applicant present? Are you in agreement? Any questions from you guys? Is anyone else here to speak for this agenda item, number 3, 1459 Montelamar Court? Anyone here to speak against this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, again under group applications, 1400 East I-65 Service Road North. We have a subdivision with a tentative, this is Southern Tire Mart, subdivision with a tentative approval with 9 listed conditions and an application for a sidewalk waiver that has been recommended for waiver. Is the applicant present? Are you in agreement with the subdivision or conditions as well as the sidewalk waiver approval? Anyone else here to speak for this agenda item? Southern Tire Mart, 1400 East I-65 Service Road North. Anyone here to speak against it? Seeing none, we'll move on. Agenda item number 5, west side of Hillcrest Road, south of the west terminus of Nevius Road. Comments from staff on subdivision and the PUD and the rezone.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, we received correspondence from the applicant's agent earlier this week, and they are requesting a holdover on these applications until the January 19th meeting.
Is the applicant present? Are you in agreement with the recommendation for holdover until the next meeting? Noted the applicant is present. Also noted that Mr. Allen Cameron would be recused from this agenda item, whether it's today or in the future. Is there anyone else here to speak for agenda item number 5, west side of Hillcrest Road, south of the west terminus of Navius Road? Is there anyone here to speak against this agenda item? Please come on down. And it is noted that this has been recommended for holdover. It will be on the next Planning Commission meeting. However, since you're here, you can make your comments.
Yes, sir. My name is Herbert Knapp. My address is 4403.
4403.
4403 Shimps Lane.
Okay.
I've got a notice in the mail about the rezoning, and the rezoning property is right behind my property, and I'm getting all kind of different people telling me different things that's going to happen on this property, and I've rather let it stay as residential zoning because there's houses in that area, and I've been hearing that it might be trying to go to commercial zoning, and I really hate to see that happening on Hillcrest. While there's some, like you got Stone Mill right down the road, you got our houses, and I just kind of like I'm against it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Does anybody have any questions from commissioners of Mr. Knapp?
Mr. Knapp, we're going to have a meeting on the 12th, I believe, at the Connie Hudson Center with the developer. So you can come and address your concerns at that meeting as well. It will be the 12th of January at 6 p.m.
Name is Michael Chabot, 4500 Cabrera Drive. I just found out about this through Mr. Knapp, and I feel kind of a sleight of hand on this because for notification purposes, you have to be within 300 feet. There's only 2 residential properties within 300 feet, but it impacts a whole lot more people, including the people on Stone Mill on the Hillcrest side, us in the Devonshire division. And I had recently spoken with a couple of my neighbors. Nobody had no idea this was going on. And I'd like for us to get the word out so more people can speak at this meeting at Connie Hudson Center.
Yep, so notifications did follow the regs, but as you heard today, there will be a community meeting, so help us spread the word. Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak in opposition to this agenda item number 5? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 6. Again, a group application, 4701 Halls Mill Road, Persons Service. We have a subdivision recommended for tentative approval with 7 listed conditions and a rezone recommended for approval with reasoning and 2 listed conditions. Is the applicant present? Are you in agreement on both the subdivision and the rezone? Noted, the applicant is present and in agreement. Is there anyone else here to speak for this agenda item? Anyone here to speak against this agenda item? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Final agenda item on today's meeting is number 7, East Terminus of Layton Place Drive, subdivision of Layton Place subdivision, recommended for tentative approval with 11 listed conditions, a PUD with 4 findings of fact and 13 listed conditions for approval. Is the applicant present? 3 hands went up. Everybody, you're in agreement with all of the conditions listed, findings of fact for this recommended approval? All right. Applicant is present and in agreement. Is there anyone else here to speak for this agenda item? Anyone here to speak against this agenda item? All right. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing session. We'll go to deliberation. Back to agenda item number 1. 1057 Tennessee Street, order of polka dots, recommended for tentative approval with 10 listed conditions. The applicant is present and in agreement. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve based on staff recommendation.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Number 2, 3603 Kent Road. Staff recommended application for denial.
What is the first meeting in March? Mr. Chairman, I would move that we postpone the vote on this until March the 2nd.
Second.
It's been moved to postpone or hold over this application. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Group applications, 1459 Montlamar Court, the Harder subdivision. Recommended for tentative approval on the subdivision. We'll take them separately. Applicant is present and in agreement.
Move to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion for the subdivision passes. The rezone also recommended for approval. Applicant is present and in agreement.
Move to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for the rezone passes. Agenda item number 4, 1400 East I-65 Service Road North, Southern Tire Mart subdivision. Recommended for tentative approval on the subdivision. We'll take them separately from the subdivision and then the sidewalk waiver. Applicant is present and in agreement with the non-listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
For the subdivision, move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion for the subdivision passes. Recommended for waiver of the sidewalk approval. Entertain a motion.
I would move to waive the sidewalk requirement.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
The motion passes. Agenda item number 5, Mr. Alan Cameron is recused. It's been recommended for holdover until January 19th. Again, it'll be number 5, recommended for holdover until January 19th, where there is a subdivision, a PUD, and a rezone. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to hold over to January 19th.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Yeah, I have a couple questions about this one. So it's currently zoned LB2, right?
Correct.
What is the nearest up? I mean, this is a huge jump from LB2 to B5. What's the nearest B5? Is there some close by that I
No.
don't see on the map?
This is all RB2. Yeah, this is all surrounded by RB2 and R1.
LB2 and R1. Okay. I was just making sure I wasn't missing something.
Yep.
We have a motion and a second, I do believe. There was a lot of discussion. Do we have a motion and a second for holdover till? Okay. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor for the holdover?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Number 6 on the agenda, 4701 Halls Mill Road, Person Service Subdivision. Take them separately. The subdivision is recommended for tentative approval with 7 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The rezone from R1 to I1 Light Industry has been recommended for approval. Entertain a motion.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Number 7, East Terminus of Layton Place Drive, Layton Place Subdivision. Take them separately between the subdivision and the PUD. It's been recommended for tentative approval with 11 listed conditions. The applicant is present and in agreement. Entertain a motion.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded for the subdivision. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. And on the PUD, applicant in agreement with the findings of fact and the 13 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
So moved. Adopt the findings of facts A, B, C, and D.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. We have 2 items going to holdover. Any further comments or agenda items from staff?
Just a reminder that you will have your public hearing at the next meeting on the proposed subdivision regulations. If you have any questions or if you need the PDF or a hard copy, please reach out to the staff, and we'll be glad to get that to you and answer any questions. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Meeting adjourned.
Whoa.
Okay, I had one question.
Uh-oh.
When they, that's right, when they approve, if they approve the subreg,
They can set the effective date.
okay, it doesn't go to council